Hello, this is Carolyn Bupert with the League of Women Voters of Portland, and you are watching the video Voters Guide, or you might be listening to it on podcast. We're here today to talk with candidates running for the May 17th, 2022 primary election. All the candidates running for this position in the primary election were invited by the League to participate. We asked the candidates candidates for the same office the same questions. The number of questions asked is determined by the length of the candidates' answers. In this process, we are grateful for the support of the Carol and Velma Sailing Foundation, the League of Women Voters of Portland Education Fund, and the Weiss Foundation, and our media partner, Metro East Community Media. With me is Casey Kulla, running for Labor Commissioner. Welcome, Mr. Kulla.
Thank you.
Please tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for office.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I extend my thanks to your whole team because this is a tremendous undertaking. So I'm currently a Yamhill County Commissioner. It's a full-time, nonpartisan, executive elected official role here just southwest of the metro area. I was elected in 2018 after successfully challenging a conservative incumbent in a conservative community. And I really focused in that race on some very important issues to lots of different people, and then some issues that were really challenging to people's understanding of their community. That included taking strong, locally relevant climate action, supporting trans youth, specifically our most marginalized and vulnerable kids, and rebuilding our county bridges. And it really covers the whole realm of the possible. But out of that work and that successful run, I began to realize how important everyone's civil rights are, and how people come to us as county commissioners and our executive roles expecting us to have the answers. And so often I find myself having to tell them, you know, we're going to have to figure this out, but we may not have a place for you to go to really have to see justice, to feel safe in your community. So when Commissioner Hoyle announced that she was running for Congress, I immediately, it stuck in me. It was like, I know the value of this role, and I know the value of this agency, and I also know how few people know where to go for help. And so that's really what drove me into this role. I personally have a master's in forest ecology, a bachelor's in biochemistry. I worked as a plumber's assistant in a university plumbing shop to pay my way through college. I was born and raised in Lincoln City at the coast. And my wife and I are first generation full-time vegetable farmers for the past 16 years. But I pull all those experiences plus my elected role into this of really understanding what it takes to rebuild a government agency to provide the very best care and the very best mission. And as you all know, BOLI does education and enforcement, investigation and enforcement of civil and workplace rights. And they also do supporting and registering apprenticeships. So my understanding of the role is very rooted in what my experience here in the county, which is trying to find answers for people in order for them to be safe in our community. And thank you for the question.
Thank you.
This is, I will, and full disclosure, this isn't my normal stump speech, but I feel like it's really important for people to know that sometimes you just don't have the answers as an elected official. And when you find out the place to go, you realize that there's not an answer there for them, you want to fix it.
You're listening to the Video Voters Guide interview and podcast of Casey Kulla, who's running for Labor Commissioner. Mr. Kulla, how will you balance the needs of business with those of workers in administering the Bureau of Labor and Industry?
Yeah, Carolyn, I really appreciate this question. I think that there's, I've heard from businesses and I've heard from workers about this really, what seems like a tension, but I actually don't see it as a tension because I see it as BOLI, the Bureau of Labor and Industry, is charged with making sure that businesses know their responsibilities, and is charged with making sure that workers' complaints are investigated fairly and concluded successfully. And so I feel like that's there is often an expression of attention, but really this is about responsibilities versus fairness and protection. I myself have the experience of working very closely with a state agency as a business owner, because from 2016 to 2021, I was a licensed cannabis producer under the OLCC's brand new legal cannabis regulated system. And in that role, I understood very clearly we got to have growing pains, basically, of regulator and regulated working back and forth constantly to figure out what was the right balance, discretion versus applying the law. One thing that we eventually came to with the OLCC is a safe harbor agreement where for an array of infractions, violations of rule, that there would be an understanding that the first step, the second step, and the third step would be education and remediation, fixing the problem. And I'm going to bring that into the role of labor commissioner. If a business comes to us and says, I don't know what to do, we will answer their question. We will figure out how to remedy the situation rather than immediately going to enforcement, because we have that discretion. But I really want to make sure that people understand that this is about business responsibility and about worker protections and civil rights protection. So it's not just about workers, it's about people in housing and in public accommodations when you're going to a business, going to a retailer.
Thank you.
But I really love the question, so thank you for asking it.
What more could be done by the Bureau of Labor and Industries to eliminate discrimination in access to housing, public spaces, and job opportunities in Oregon?
Yeah, so as we've talked about the role of the Bureau of Labor and Industries, one thing that I hear consistently is we have rules on the books. The legislature has codified extensive civil rights and worker rights, but if they're not enforced and if people don't know about their rights, then they're just paper rights. They're just good on the books, right? And so my role as the labor commissioner will be to really support the agency staff, making sure that they have the tools, the software, the time that they need, the lowered caseloads in order to do a fair and effective investigation. I hear from a lot of folks that they don't feel like there's enforcement when they go with a complaint. I hear from folks who've had wage theft claims that were valid and yet never had resolution. And if you look, so one of the important things that BOLI does, the Bureau of Labor and Industries does, is investigates and enforces on retaliation and whistleblower complaints. And if you look on the website where you go to file a retaliation complaint, you'll see that it says, we have a high caseload. Don't expect to hear from us anytime soon. That's not a direct quote, but it's pretty close. And what that means is that people are very vulnerable when they have a whistleblower complaint that they file, because they may have an employer or a business retaliate against them, and they may never see justice from it. So this is about supporting staff, making sure that we have the case staff and investigators that we need in order to make sure that they have the tools that they need.
Thank you, Mr. Kulla. This concludes the video voters guide interview of Casey Kulla, who's running for Labor Commissioner. Election Day is Tuesday, May 17th. Thank you for your interest and for being an informed voter. And I hope you'll share this resource with your family and friends. For more information on the primary election and this race, visit our websites, vote411.org and lwvpdx.org.